against Basel. They completely turned it around in the second leg, but it is the last season without a trophy, 2011 and 2012, if we are to go back then. Aage Fjortoft joining us now to talk more about this, but just to start with...
And here we spent all day yesterday building Bayern back up.
We did.
Building the blocks of positivity. How can this Bayern team turn the corner? Going to Lazio, you mentioned, not exactly great, sitting sort of, I think, eighth in Serie A. Solid unit, kind of.
If you listened yesterday, Craig, you will hear me saying that I think this is a risky game for Bayern. What they did after the Leverkusen game was to first of all change today. They went in a back four. They got the people in again, Joshua Kimmich, Goretzka, Müller in, and play more safe today. In the first half, they had more or less control. They didn't have shot on target, but still Kane, Musiala, Kimmich should have done better. But there is also another in terms of facts. If you have Upamecano in your team, you know that you will always do something stupid. Sarri could just say to halftime, Upamecano, average in every game, will do something stupid, and he did 2 times today. First he lost the ball, Isaacson threw, Neuer standing up for a long time, a good save, and then this red card is a clear red card, and they lose 1-0. And believe me, boys and girls, since I've been off this game, I've been watching the press conference, I've seen German media. They are not hunting Upamecano, they are hunting Thomas Tuchel. They want Thomas Tuchel out of the Bayern job, and they, meaning the press in Germany right now.
Are they right to be hunting Thomas Tuchel?
Well, he's in one of the biggest jobs in the world, isn't he? So it comes with the territory. They're terrible by Bayern standards. They're average, absolutely average at best. And I talked about it yesterday. Jan mentioned a tricky game. Every game's a tricky game for Bayern at the moment, even if they're playing somebody at the bottom of the Bundesliga. But he's going back to the well here. I talked about this yesterday. He's going back to the well with players that he's already somewhat castigated. Kimmich, Goretzka, who he took off, Upamecano, De Ligt, who he's then had to come on. Well, he didn't have to come on. He could have brought Eric Dyer on. But it's clear he brought Eric Dyer in. It's clear he doesn't... And people will say, well, why did De Ligt come in and not Dyer? Because De Ligt didn't play at the weekend. It's all over the place. It's crystal clear he doesn't really like Eric Dyer in the 2. I think he's brought him into Bayern Munich because he's got this in his head. He's going to play a 3 at the back with Eric Dyer in the middle. Well, that went flying out the window on Saturday at Leverkusen when he did it. So it's kind of all over the place. But he's having to go back to these players now and go, oh, I know I've not been your biggest fan, but come on, can you do it for me? And that's a big problem for him. A huge problem. No shots on target. Nothing on target with the quality players that they have is quite shocking. And if you think back to Man City last year against Bayern Munich, who was the guy that City allowed on the ball all the time? Particularly at the Etihad, Upamecano. And he had an absolute shocker. So if you play your cards right, like Lazio did at times, and they might do in the second leg, Upamecano can't play, but if they play the cards right, they let him have the ball, and then he would make mistakes. So, yeah, not a little surprising, but not a lot, I would say.
Well, I think what is surprising, though, from my perspective, is the fact that given the context of what Bayern Munich was in the weekend, given the fact that in their most important game of the season, they were humiliated, they were taken to pieces, they were destroyed by Bayer Leverkusen, what I was expecting from Bayern Munich today, at the very least, beyond tactics, beyond how they were set up on the field, beyond whatever Thomas Tuchel does on the sideline, I was expecting a Bayern Munich team that was going to show, at the very least, competitive pride. That there was going to be a sense of energy and intensity about his team that would allow then some of the quality that they do have on the field to show up. Because once they have the intensity, once they have the energy, once they show that competitive pride, I was maybe naive to think that maybe this version of Bayern Munich at some point would then show up the qualities that we think they're capable of showing up. Even after the red card, because we can have a conversation pre-red card and post-red card, but even before the red card, it's not like this team were flying all over the place. And Thomas Tuchel in his post-game press conference is saying we were under control, we were playing well. Yeah, you may have controlled the game, but I don't know that you were playing particularly well. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't dynamic. It was slow. It was predictable. It was underwhelming. It was what Bayern Munich have been the whole season. That eventually they kind of find a way to win a game 1-0. And Craig just mentioned, this is how it's been even playing against teams in the bottom of the table in Bundesliga, whether it's whoever. You mention whoever, and they have difficulties. And that has been the case in Bundesliga and was the case today again. So even until the red card, you didn't see that big reaction, that quote-unquote reaction coming from the humiliation against Bayer Leverkusen. That's the disappointing part of me, is that beyond whatever you think of the tactics of Thomas Tuchel, the players themselves out on the field, they just kind of going along with the game, and eventually they make the mistake that they have been making, and eventually they find themselves behind, and eventually there's no way of coming back because they haven't shown to be a team that can actually come back from deficits this year either.
I think Thomas Tuchel, in some sense, can think himself a very lucky man when this draw came out. Because they've basically been beaten and under pressure and have played one of the more limited teams in this competition that are left. And he can be thankful for that this 1-0 defeat is probably going to be something that they'll, the cough's back, something that he'll come back from. Possibly, because had he played and had he got somebody much better than Lazio, they could have been flattened tonight, absolutely flattened. So he can thank his lucky stars for that. That's one thing.
Jan, but early on in the second half, we even saw it in the highlight. Tuchel's 10 minutes into the second half got his head in his hands. I mean, that just does not instill courage and confidence in this side, surely.
No, but please, I mean, yes, we can have we know that Christoph Freund said before the game, we lost together in Leverkusen. We have to solve this together. The only thing is that they won't be all fired together. There is only Tuchel who will be fired. So, yes, we can go after Tuchel, but today he set up a conservative starting 11. This was not like the experiment that he did at Leverkusen, but wow, there is enough players out there that can take charge. If we see this team today, I think Neuer was good, Masurai was good, Kim did okay. The rest of the team, where are they? We have 2 games now, we've seen them, we have followed them, we have made our analysis on them. Harry Kane, total gone. Musiala, Florian Wirtz played him off the park. He wasn't there today either. And I'm with Craig. In the first half, Bayern kind of controlled the game in terms of they had the ball, but there were no passion. And they played against the number 8 in Serie A. Stadio Olimpico, 60,000 supporters, and they didn't do anything, Lazio. In the second half, at least, they took some counterattacks. So yes, this is an understatement of the night, but this is a big decision now for Bayern what they're going to do. At the weekend, they're going to Bochum. That is, Bochum know what to do, and then they play Leipzig, then they play Lazio again, and they have to win and so on. This is, I said it yesterday, I will say it again. If they get knocked out by Lazio, I think there's Thomas Tuchel, and you know I rate him. I've always rated Thomas Tuchel, but I think he will be fired if he will be knocked out. 2 years ago, they were knocked out by Villarreal. Last season, they were knocked out by Manchester City. That's okay. But Lazio now, that is for all kind of levels or standards of Bayern Munich, scandalous.
Well, let's hear what the coach has had to say after the game. He said, I think we lost the game. I'm not sure Lazio won it. I'm not sure why we lost our conviction in the second half, but we did. And then we fell behind. I can't explain it because we told the team to maintain their intensity and be even braver going forward. But we seemed to lose face at the start of the half. We did everything possible to lose this game. It was in our hands. At a certain point, we stopped believing. There were many individual errors too.
There is a point in the game, in the second half, in which Bayern Munich regained possession of the ball. And Thomas Tuchel is sitting at the sidelines just pushing the team forward. And you can see that physically he is yelling and essentially telling the team to get forward, to go ahead, to push the line forward. And the reaction of the team was to pass the ball sideways and back and sideways and back. And then he just kind of went back and sat down. At that point, I'm looking at it, and I don't have to be in that locker room to kind of put things together and say, He's literally yelling at the guy who's right next to him, who just won possession of the ball, let's get forward. And their reaction was to pass the ball sideways and back. There's a disconnect here. It is clear to see. And it's a disconnect that you can see individually, but you can see it as a group. And that's on Thomas Tuchel and the players. Individually, when I look at the players in a particular sequence around the 60th minute, Harry Kane is playing as if he's Toni Kroos or he is Sergio Busquets or as if he's a holding midfielder getting balls from center backs and trying to play the ball, spray balls to the right-hand side. They lost that ball. Eventually, they regain possession. He gets it back, and now he tries to spray it to the left-hand side. They've lost that ball again, and now he's tracking back defensively. I'm thinking, what? Why? Why? How? This is your guy that should be up there, finishing chances. And at the end of the game, when they're chasing it, who's actually getting the half chances? Is Masraoui? Is Choupo-Moting? Where is Harry Kane? Nowhere near inside the 18-yard box. I don't understand it. I don't get it. There's a disconnect between the managers and the players. But inside, on the field, there's also a disconnect in terms of the jobs that some of these players should be doing.
It's just, that head in the hands point. It wasn't necessarily me, Jan, getting at Thomas Tuchel. It's as if that because of that half-time talk he's had, they've agreed what they're going to do, and then it's Lazio who come out on the
cover these eyes, because even he doesn't want to watch Bayern Munich.
But what?
I'm going to have another bash at this without...
Has he not got their respect, Craig?
Sorry?
Has he not got their respect? Are they not listening to their coach?
Well, one of the things that I keep hearing, or I've heard a couple of times from him and from players is, well, the training has been great and all this sort of stuff. And I listen, we've all played with numerous players that look like Maradona and Messi in training, and then when they get out there and this word pressure sort of comes down on you like a ton of bricks, and all of a sudden, your manager's under pressure, you're under pressure, you're going behind, you're making mistakes. And I think we're seeing all of that. And I reiterate what I said yesterday and previous days. Thomas Tuchel was brought in clearly to take Bayern to the next step forward, to take them forward, to move them on, to improve every facet of the performances in the squad. And I think they've gone back the way. I don't think there's a doubt about that. Now, is there time to resurrect the season? Of course there is. Do any of us have great confidence that they'll do it domestically or in this Champions League? I don't think there is, and I think that's what he's going to hang his hat on, is that we will turn it around. We will catch Leverkusen and we will knock Lazio out, and, whoever we get will be better by then. And that's all he can do at this moment in time. Because he can't sit there and go, we're crap. And, we'll probably not beat Lazio, and Leverkusen have gone into the sunset. He can't do that, because he just can't. So somehow he has to foster an attitude that's going to turn this around. But I go back to the point is, he's thrown a couple of players under the bus already. He's having to go back to them. They don't know what the best team is. They don't know what the best midfield is. They don't know what the best back four is. And it wouldn't be a great surprise if Lazio were to go to the Allianz Arena, sit deep and, get a draw and knock them out. And as Jan said, he doesn't survive it. He can't survive being knocked out of this competition by Lazio. And
he can't avoid the comparisons, Jan, because they're obviously all coming out after this game. One of them, Thomas Tuchel, has lost 10 of his 43 competitive matches as Bayern coach, which is already as many defeats as his predecessor, Julian Nagelsmann, suffered in 84 games in charge of the club.
Yeah, and that's the fact, Kay, and you can't get away from that. And, if you're going to define who is a good manager, who is a bad manager, you can easily say that's in number of titles. But I will say that it's how you improve your team, how you improve the individual players. And if we remember back when Nagelsmann was taken off the job, they said Tuchel they should save the season. And then they were out of the Pokal, they were out of the Champions League. And then Dortmund said, we don't want to win the Bundesliga, so you can win it. So we just play a draw at Mainz at home. So going into a new season, yes, in terms of points, they've had many points. That is okay. But he hasn't improved the team, Tuchel, now. He hasn't improved any player. I'm thinking, who could he have improved in that team? Now, I can't find any player. Harry Kane, he didn't need to improve. He just went to Germany and did the same thing he has done for England and he has done for Tottenham. And that's the problem of Tuchel. But I would just want to say that there will be a hunt of the coach, but there's also players in there who now use the pressure on Tuchel as an alibi. They are kind of hiding behind him. At Thomas Müller, I listen to him. I hear his interviews. Well done. World-class interviews, analyze of Bayern Munich. But when he's playing Thomas Müller now, he doesn't look like a player who should play for Bayern. And that's a fact too. But we know the processes at Bayern. I don't think they will do anything now to calm the situation down. But this won't last forever, because the history of Bayern just show that you will be gone sooner rather than later.
Sounds like you don't want to talk about Kylian Mbappe, Craig.
No, I'm not going to mention Kylian Mbappe, to be honest. If anybody can poke a ball in at the back post. I don't think Paris Saint-Germain were very impressive. I actually thought Real Sociedad played better than they have done recently in La Liga, but they can't buy a goal.
No.
They can't buy a goal. And for all their good play, they're just not clinical in the final third. And that's the difference. And then the lack of marking, or the wrong personnel marking at the back post. You saw Kubo going one way when the ball wasn't cleared. He's just not got a defensive mindset. And then that's changed the game completely. And we thought yesterday that Real Sociedad would play some good stuff, but ultimately Paris Saint-Germain would win. And that's how it is. I think this game's well and truly over. But I'm not impressed by them. I think, again, if they'd played somebody decent, Paris Saint-Germain today, they'd have got beaten, for sure.
To your point about Aage Kubo picking up Kylian Mbappe, set pieces is one of the few things that you can actually predict and you can actually prepare for ahead of the game. So in any locker room, there would be a board in which you have your matchups. You're picking this guy, you're picking this guy, this is your responsibility. I cannot believe for the life of me that they would have had ahead of the game, Mbappe, corner kick, Kubo, you take him. That cannot be the matchup. And so I don't understand how this happens, because this is one of the things that you cannot allow to happen if you're Real Sociedad. Indeed, you had played well. You actually created some opportunities. You had run into difficulty scoring 5 games without scoring a goal. Yeah, that's a problem. But to give PSG an advantage by essentially a lack of attention to detail away from home on a set piece, that's inexcusable. The one thing that I would say about Real Sociedad is that if they had Kylian Mbappe, they would be a great team. But they just don't have anywhere near that guy. They just don't have that personnel. They don't have a player that's a killer. They don't, not even close. And so what they do is that they get to about the final third of the field, and then all of a sudden you start looking around, you're like, that guy not good enough, that guy not good enough, he doesn't have confidence, he's not going to finish a chance. And eventually, you run out of space, you run out of ideas, turn the ball over in bad area, and now PSG is going on the counter. PSG were far more dangerous when they were going on the counter than having possession themselves.
We're just looking at the Champions League odds here, because obviously we saw Bayern and PSG play today. Obviously differing results for the two of them, but Bayern are favourites ahead of PSG. Who do you think's got a better chance of going further in the tournament, Craig?
Well, I'm just glad after about 4 days Bayern Munich have been shunted from that second spot. Because they were hovering about there like a bad smell. Who's going to go further?
Go on, Craig. Believe.
All right. Paris Saint-Germain. They're both going to get knocked out. They're both... I should say I really don't care, and I'll tell you why. Because they're both going to get knocked out the first decent team they come up against. At this level. I mean, Real Sociedad are decent, and Lazio are half decent in their own leagues. Half decent. The first real decent team they come up against in this competition that has got realistic chances of winning this competition, which they two don't, they're going to get knocked out. And that's where they are.
And to that point, Craig, you look at today how at times PSG was dominated through the midfield by Mikel Merino and Yarramendi and Barrenechea and so on. Look, good players, but not great players. And once you advance in this competition, You look at this midfield of PSG, and I just don't see them keeping up with the very best teams in Europe. They have difficulties actually getting control of the ball, getting a hold of the ball, and having actual build-up play. Not just, hey, let's play forward to Kylian, and he runs, and now we go and join him in the attack. I don't see PSG as a well-structured team. In fact, if you put two teams together, I'm saying Real Sociedad is far more of a team than PSG is, but Real Sociedad don't quite have the talent level at the highest point that PSG does. And Kylian Mbappe is very much at the forefront of that. That's why PSG wins this game, in that they have just enough in the attack, much more so than Real Sociedad. But in terms of them being a major character in the final stages of this competition, they don't have a team.
Are you surprised there's not more character from them, given the fact Luis Enrique's come in to do just that, to bring them together as a team, to have a team that's full of character?
Well, but when I say a major character, I don't mean so much about the personality of the team. I mean about the structure of the group itself, the organization or lack thereof. I see a team that is vulnerable. It's a team that can be dominated through the midfield. It's a team that can be exploited in the defensive third, if indeed you have the talent to do so. Real Sociedad, without doing a whole lot offensively today, still had chances and had opportunities. And if indeed they had enough talent in the attack or enough confidence, whichever, the truth is that they should have scored a goal today, and they didn't. PSG is a team that it will be just enough, good enough to get past this stage of the competition, and then after that, they're depending on the draw.
I tell you what, Manchester City will never have a better opportunity to retain a Champions League, which I would imagine has not been done too many times. And I tell you why, because Real Madrid obviously are the closest team and they're a big threat, but they've got a lot. If their injuries keep going the way they're going, that's going to be difficult. The rest of them, I mean, Arsenal are strong, but they've got little experience getting. They've been all the way once, I think, to Paris where they got beat. But
Inter are better than last year.
Inter, all of a sudden, Inter, shouldn't say this because Don will be licking his chops somewhere, but all of a sudden, Inter, who are top of Serie A by some way, have got Atletico Madrid, which is going to be a tough game, but they'll be looking and saying, Bayern Munich, really average. PSG, really average. Then you got the likes of Dortmund, who, for somehow won the group. Won the group. I mean, they're so far off the pace in the Bundesliga, it's scary. And then you're looking at the Portos and other teams like this. So, if Real Madrid get their act together and City keep going and maybe Inter, there's not going to be a lot where you'll say, well, maybe Bayern could win this. Maybe it's going to boil down to these two or three teams, particularly Man City and Real Madrid. Maybe throw Inter in there. The rest of them, unless they buck their ideas up and all of a sudden start playing great.
What about Barcelona? What? Okay, maybe not.
Are you being harsh on Arsenal?
Well, I'm not being harsh on Arsenal. Tell me what Arsenal have done in the Champions League that would make me sit here and go, yeah, Arsenal. Look at Arsenal have to win the Premier League. You know what I mean?
Is this not easier for them to win than the Premier League?
Well, they've won the Premier League before, have they not? Have they ever won the Champions League?
I'm saying just now, though, right now, is it with what?
Well, they have to beat Man City or Real Madrid, or depending on the draw, or maybe an Inter or somebody like that. So I'm not being harsh on Arsenal. Arsenal are a good side, but they're yet to prove under Arteta they can go all the way and compete under the highest of pressure, and they've not done that. They've played some great stuff last year and certainly recently, but at the moment it's looking like draw dependent. Real Madrid and Man City, or somebody's going to have to knock them out, and if it's not Inter, possibly Arsenal. I don't know who it's going to be.
The case that you can make for Arsenal is that they're more, certainly, I mean, there's no even question about this, they're more of a team than PSG, than Bayern Munich. And so that, I would assume, would, if you're an Arsenal fan, you kind of hang on to that and say, well, wait, if we're better than these teams, maybe we get to the level that we need to be.